Just probably heard of the Boston Tea Party, something about a bunch of angry colonists, dressed as Native Americans, throwing chests of tea into the water. But the story is far more complicated, filled with imperial intrigue, corporate crisis, smuggling, and the grassroots origins of the American Revolution. The first thing you need to know about tea in the 1700s is that it was really, really popular. In England, each man, woman, and child consume almost 300 cups of this stuff every year. And since the English colonized America, Americans were crazy about tea too. By the 1760s, they were over a million pounds of tea every year. So when Britain wanted to increase taxes on tea in America, people were not happy, mostly because they had no say in tax decision made in London. Remember that famous phrase, no taxation without representation? The American colonies had long believed that they were not subject to taxes imposed by legislature in which they lacked representation. In fact, rather than paying the taxes, they simple-Dutch the tax collectors. Since the East Coast of America is hundreds of miles long, and British enforcement was lax, about three-quarters of the tea Americans were drinking was smuggling in, usually from Holland. But the British insisted that parliaments did have the authority to tax the colonies, especially after Britain went deeply into debt, fighting the French in the 7 Years' War. To close the baggage gap, London looked to Americans, and in 1767 imposed new taxes on a variety of imports, including the Americans' beloved tea. America's response: no thanks. They boycotted the importation of tea from Britain and instead brewed their own. After a new bunch of British customer commissioners cried to London for troops to help with tax enforcement, things got so heated that the redcoats fired on a mob in Boston, killing several people in what was soon called the Boston Massacre.
With the terms of the Tea Law of 1773, the Parliament prepared a new strategy. Now the East India Company would come in the surplus tea directly from consignees in the U.S. This would lower the price for consumers, making British tea competitive against smuggled tea, and would maintain some taxes. But the colonies took notice of the British strategy and said monopoly. It is cold and rainy now, December 16, 1773. Some 5,000 people gathered in Boston at the Old Southern Meeting House, waiting to know if the new shipment of tea that arrived at the port will be unloaded for sale. When the captain of one of those ships signaled that it could not sail with its load on board, Sam Adams exclaimed, "This meeting can't do more to save the country." They shot off to Boston Harbor tonight, a shout. The British government responded with the so-called coercive laws of 1774, which among other cases shut down Boston Harbor until local peasants turned to the East India Company for tea. That never happened. Representatives from the colonies met in Philadelphia to consider how best to respond to continued British operation. This First Continental Congress supported the destruction of tea, pledged to support an ongoing boycott, and returned home in late October 1774, even more united in their determination to protect their right and freedom. The Boston Tea Party rise started a chain reaction that gradually led to the Declaration of Independence and a bloody rebellion, after which it was possible to drink tea more or less in peace.